Hi everybody and welcome back to another book talk video with me, Anne. I've got a mix of books and genres for you this week. And without further ado, let's get into it. The first book I have is I Am by Isaac Mizrahi. I'm going to read some of the reviews on the cover of the book. Intimate and generous and 100% Isaac. What makes this book so incredibly deliciously good is Isaac's specificity, not just as material, pun intended, but beyond the fabric of clothing and into the fabric of life, the experiences, the nuances, the brilliance, and the oddity of times we're in. That's a blurb from A.M. Holmes, New York Times bestselling author. Another blurb from Andy Cohen, New York Times bestselling author of Superficial, says, I Am has everything. It's colorful, hysterical, touching, bold, and heartbreaking. It's about coming of age, creativity, being yourself, Jewish mothers, fashion, art, loss, and glamour. I loved it. Not only is Isaac Mizrahi kind of a fashion icon, my semi-personal connection to this book is really just more of a pointless story about my life. Anyone else remember when Isaac Mizrahi had a collection with Target? I don't know if that's still a thing, but the suit that I got from Target was an Isaac Mizrahi designed one for Target, and that helped me get my first quote-unquote real job out of college. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I'd like to learn more about this person who hopefully helped me not have to keep delivering waffles to people at 6 in the morning in a hotel. So thank you for that. All right, moving on. The next book I have to talk about is In West Mills by DeJean Charles Winslow, and this is a historical fiction novel. So here's what it says on the inside cover to describe the book. Azalea Knott Center is determined to live life as she pleases. Let the people of West Mills say what they will. The neighbor's gossip won't keep Knott from what she loves best. Cheap moonshine, 19th century literature, and the company of men. And yet Knott is starting to learn that her freedom comes at a high price. Alone in her two-room shack, ostracized from her relatives and cut off from her hometown, Knott turns to her closest neighbor, Otis Lee Loving, in search of some semblance of family and home. Otis Lee is eager to help. A lifelong fixer, he is determined to steer his friends and family away from decisions that will cause them heartache and ridicule. After his failed attempt as a teenager to help his older sister, Otis Lee discovers a possible path to redemption in the chaos Knott brings to his doorstep. But while he's busy trying to fix Knott's life, Otis Lee finds himself powerless to repair the many problems within his own family, as the long-buried secrets of his troubled past begin to come to light. Set in an African-American community in rural North Carolina and spanning from 1941 to 1987, In West Mills is a big-hearted, small-town story about family, friendship, storytelling, and the redemptive power of love. The next book I have to talk about is another nonfiction book. It's What's Your Pronoun? Beyond He and She by Denis Barron, who knows that his pronouns are he, him, his. Here's what this book has to say on the inside flap. What's your pronoun? Maybe you've never considered the question before, but you probably know someone who has. Maybe you have a coworker or a family member who is trans or non-binary. Maybe you have a child who has just announced that their pronouns are they/them. Or maybe you've read about pronouns in the news and are wondering what all the fuss is about. What's Your Pronoun answers precisely these questions, examining the pronouns that are alternatives to he and she that can be used when someone's gender is unknown or when they're not simply male or female. The book, based on 40 years of empirical research by renowned linguist Denis Barron, tells a history that delves not only into our current environment, but also into past attempts to come up with gender-neutral and non-binary pronouns, from generic he to singular they to coined words like ze and here and his'r. Gender-neutral pronouns, as it turns out, are nothing new. Barron deftly puts them in historical context, noting that Shakespeare and Jane Austen and Dickens all used the singular they, that women in the 19th century invoked the generic use of he in the U.S. Constitution to assert the right to vote, while those opposed to women's rights invoked the same word to assert that he did not include she, and that self-appointed language mavens have been coining new pronouns for centuries. The contemporary ramifications of these pronoun controversies now appear everywhere in our culture. Gender-neutral and non-binary pronouns are in the news, on social media, in Sephora ads, and even on Oreo cookies. Like trigger warnings in gender-neutral bathrooms, pronouns are sparking debate and prompting new policies in schools, workplaces, prisons, and even state houses. Colleges ask students to declare their pronouns along with their majors. Corporate conferences print helpful name tags with space to add pronouns. Email signatures sport pronouns along with names and titles. What's Your Pronoun explores the pros and cons of these pronouns, showing how those in favor tend to see them as a way to fill a gap in the English language, and a way for people to assert their identities, while those opposed often view them as an assault on language and even on their own freedoms. With his trenchant analysis and great empirical knowledge, Denis Barron delivers an essential work in understanding how language is evolving in the 21st century. And a note about the author, Denis Barron, Professor Emeritus of English and Linguistics at the University of Illinois, has long been a national commentator on language issues from the Washington Post to NPR and CNN. A recent Guggenheim Fellow, he lives in Champaign, Illinois. The final book I have to recommend seems especially timely based on my trip outside into the backyard yesterday. The Mosquito, A Human History of Our Deadliest Predator by Timothy C. Weingard. I hate mosquitoes. Just putting that up. Alright, so what's the inside cover have to say? A pioneering work of narrative nonfiction that offers a dramatic new perspective on the history of humankind, showing how through millennia the mosquito has been the single most powerful force in determining the fate of humanity. Why was gin and tonic the cocktail of choice for British colonists in India and Africa? What does Starbucks have to thank for its global domination? What doomed the Crusades? Why did Scotland surrender its sovereignty to England? What was George Washington's secret weapon during the American Revolution? An answer to all these questions and many more is the mosquito. Now, if that doesn't intrigue you, especially if you're here in Wisconsin in the summertime after some rain, I think this is a very promising book. I hope to read it while squishing a mosquito. So anyway, those are the books I have to share this week. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.